Have you ever realized that you've been calling a monster by the wrong name for a very long time? A face covered in twisting tentacles. A quiet, deliberate force that bends your mind. And a lingering discomfort that stays with you long after you look away. The creature we commonly call a mind flayer leaves an impression that is impossible to forget once you've seen it. But did you know that even its widely known name comes from an old misunderstanding? And its origin is even more surprising because this monster was not born from ancient myth, but suddenly appeared out of modern fears and imagination. So naturally, questions begin to form. Why did this creature become a symbol of fear so quickly? What makes it so uniquely disturbing? Where does that fear begin? And what gives this monster its unsettling power? Let's take a closer look at the origins of this creature. The first interesting fact is that its name is not Player, but Flayer. Because the pronunciations are similar, Korean fans confused the two for many years, but the correct name is Flayer, with an F, not a P. Flayer means one who strips away, not just attacking the body, but peeling away the mind, will, and identity. This small misunderstanding actually reveals a lot about the creature's nature. The unease hidden within a familiar word, the sense of identity unraveling. Even its name alone makes the mind tremble, and from that point, the fear of the mind flayer begins to seep in. The second interesting fact is that this monster is not born from ancient legends, but first appeared in 1974 as a modern creation. Most monsters evolve over centuries of storytelling, but the mind flayer took a completely different path. The 1970s were marked by identity crises, social anxiety, and a growing fear of psychological manipulation. The mind flayer emerged directly from these cultural tensions, suddenly appearing within the experimental space of tabletop games. Unrestricted by traditional mythology, it absorbed the era's anxieties, and players recognized in this creature a reflection of their own uncertain times. The third interesting fact is that the mind flayer's tentacled face was directly inspired by Lovecraftian horror. The moment you look at it, a wave of discomfort strikes before any explanation is needed. A face almost human, yet clearly not. Lovecraftian horror thrives on the collapse of boundaries, the fear that creeps in when something looks human, but is not. The tentacles became a powerful symbol of this collapse. Their unreadable, alien movements visualized an unknowable terror, creating a deep psychological threat through appearance alone. The fourth interesting fact is that the creature's true origin story was misunderstood for a long time. Many people believe the mind flayer came from Gary Gygax's childhood sketches, but that is not true. Gygax stated in interviews that the inspiration came from the cover illustration of Brian Lumley's 1974 novel, The Burrowers Beneath. The creature on that cover blurred the boundary between human and tentacled horror, and that visual sparked Gygax's imagination, eventually evolving into the mind flayer we know today. So its roots lie not in childhood memories, but in the imagery of modern horror literature. The fifth interesting fact is that its brain-eating ability is not simply a gruesome detail, but a psychological symbol of destroyed identity. Physical harm creates fear, but harm to the mind lasts far longer. The brain holds memory, personality, emotion, and identity. So consuming it means erasing the person entirely. players often feared not the loss of hit points, but the threat of losing themselves. This concept made the Mind Flayer a modern icon of psychological horror. The sixth interesting fact is that its mind control abilities were designed to break the rules of combat itself. Most monsters threaten with strength, speed, or magic, but the Mind Flayer disrupts the foundation of battle. Mental attacks cannot be blocked with shields and cannot be resisted with physical power. Even powerful characters could suddenly become helpless, turning the encounter into an experience of losing thought and judgment. That loss of control left a deep and lasting anxiety. The seventh interesting fact is that early players often described this creature as more disgusting than frightening. Fear fades, but disgust lingers and returns repeatedly. Tentacled face, mind control, brain consumption. Each element is strong on its own, but together they create an emotional reaction that is hard to explain. Many players said, "It wasn't that I was scared, I just never wanted to see it again." This aversion became one of the creature's strongest psychological effects. The eighth interesting fact is that, over time, the Mind Flayer expanded into an entire society and ecosystem. Originally portrayed as a parasitic monster, it later gained complex lore, tadpoles implanted into hosts, a shared collective intelligence, and a species that acts like a single, interconnected network. Fighting a Mind Flayer came to mean fighting the civilization behind it, not just an individual creature. The ninth interesting fact is that the introduction of the term illithid solidified this creature's identity as a species. At first, it appeared as a lone monster with no culture or history, but as the world expanded, writers emphasized that it belonged to a civilization. The name illithid became not just a label, but a way to give the creature a sense of culture and identity. Players began to see it as a being with a life of its own, rather than a simple monster. The 10th interesting fact is that the Mind Flayer spread across genres and became a defining icon of modern tentacle horror. Mind control, tentacled face, dissolving identity. These themes were so strong that games, novels, films, comics, and internet culture continued to reinterpret the creature in new forms. In recent major RPGs, the moment a parasitic tadpole enters the player's mind, audiences are reminded of this creature's roots. The Mind Flayer has become a symbol of psychological collapse and the erosion of self. The Mind Flayer is not a monster passed down from ancient legends. It is a distinctly modern horror, born from the anxieties and imagination of our time, and that is why it never becomes outdated. It shifts, reappears, and transforms with each new story. Next time, we'll explore how this strange tentacled creature has evolved through popular culture and how it may continue to transform in the future.